Welcome in to the Fantasy Football Show. I'm your guy, Nicholas Wilcox. My other guy here, my cousin, my guy, Johnny Main. Johnny, a little here in holiday spirit. What up with you?
Of course, I'm in the holiday spirit, man. In the holiday spirit. Happy St. Patty's Day, me lads. And
Yeah. At least you went for it.
Just been drinking water. No green beer for me today. Yeah, I know, right? But definitely wearing green, paying a little homage to baseball season, as obviously as it's getting ready to start up. And I don't know a whole lot about baseball, but the A's used to be my team back in the day with Jose Canseco and obviously RIP Ricky Henderson. And Ken Griffey Jr. I know he was never an athletic, but yeah, those are my teams. So I got my green on, rocking my green today, man. Getting ready to chop it up with you, man. So how was the day for you, man?
For people that had to work today, unlike some people I know, and someone on this pod, it was fine. Work was just work. Yeah, this is what happens when the football season ends. It's like things.
Hey man, you got the
come back
WWE?
to a so-called a cold reality.
Yeah. Facts.
Oh man, facts. It is what it is. But we're here to talk about the free agency aftermath show, in which we're talking about certain recaps based on how we see fit with some certain, they say new faces in new places. Then there's still some, some crumbs left out there for some teams that are going to be probably scraping the bottom of the barrel. But yeah, if you guys are tuning in, please like, subscribe to the channel. We are on the following platforms. X, you can follow each of us on there. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. So feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Help the growth of the channel. Help us pay a few bills along the way.
And don't forget, we got Spotify too. We got Spotify.
Don't forget, we're live on the radio and Spotify.
Yeah, you can catch us there too.
It's just there as well. And feel free to comment in the chat if you are watching live. We'd really appreciate that as well. Breaking all this down. Without further ado, we're going to go right into it. Some news over the last couple of days. We were contemplating on what was going to happen with the Cooper Kupp situation. We finally got an answer to that. It's debatable where he landed. He landed back in the division, but with Seattle of all teams. So Cooper Kupp has a 3-year, $45 million contract landing in Seattle. I guess out of all places, that's not too shabby of a spot for Cooper Kupp to rehab his both personal value and also his fantasy value, right? I think when you look at Cooper Kupp, we were looking at a guy that, coming into the year, if you told me Cooper Kupp would have fallen off the face of the earth later on in the year, I would have been like, maybe. But to the degree that he did it, no. It was a little shocking how he kind of went down the drain late on the season, especially for those who had, held on to him and whatnot. But, sometimes that is what it is. You can't always predict, how player performances are going to go with the older cats, especially anything over 30 years old, a receiver. So I mean, again, for all the people who held him in Dynasty, kind of feel bad for you a little bit. But like I said, this is a chance landing in Seattle. You already got Sam Darnold. So new face, new place. New quarterback receiver tandem. You'll still have JSN. You'll still have Kenneth Walker in this offense. Like, you'll still have Zach Charbonnet. Like, we'll see what happens with Seattle. We know they somewhat are, have retooled. You know what I'm saying? Out DK Metcalf and Geno Smith, and in comes, Cooper Kupp, Sam Darnold in this offense. And, again, they still have some younger picks to flood this team with. So it remains to be seen how Cooper Kupp can still stabilize his new place overall. Again, 3 years, $45 million tells me that Seattle still sees Cooper Kupp as a nice value piece and potential helper to the team. Who knows if he stays there for the 3 years? But I think a solid 2 years at least has an opportunity for Cooper Kupp to rehab his value. Like I said, both for his personal gain and for us as fantasy owners. John, what are you saying to this overall? What are you seeing? Are we in agreement when it comes to a good place for Cooper Kupp to rehab his value? Do you feel that Denver, New England, any other spots were better for him? Or was this the best place overall when it comes to, again, like a chance to stay in division, to stay relevant, and also for us fantasy owners, is this a good spot?
Well, for me, I think this just goes to the graveyard of older players who have been cut and try to, prove to the team that cut them that they still have something left in the tank going to a division rival. So, oddly enough, this was one of the places I thought for sure. I thought, obviously, I thought the Steelers were on the table. I really, really thought the Jags might have been a place for him to go and really excel just because of the situation there and them not having a lot of pass catchers there. So I thought that was really like a really intriguing place. And then, I was doing something last weekend, doing a show last weekend. And as I was, getting ready for it, I was like Jacksonville. And then literally the news broke. And I was like, okay, well, obviously we can take that one off the table. But no, man, I mean, I think, he falls right in line with some of the likes of some of the names that I'm going to read off. Brandon Marshall, Josh Gordon, Jerry Rice, TJ Hushmanzada, Sidney Rice, blast from the past, man. All guys who were on the back end of their career that ended up going to Seattle and not really, producing at the level that, we are accustomed to and knowing them for who they are. I think maybe out of that group, I think Sidney Rice might have had like the best year, but but as far as Cooper Kupp and his production, I know it's scary hours. As far as his production goes, over the last 5 games of the regular season last year, he averaged 28 yards per game receiving. He was somebody that got bumped up as the closer it got to draft days in August. Because if he didn't produce, we would have thought it would have been because of health. And honestly, I think that's the biggest thing, man, is like, was he all the way completely healthy last year? And I think that's something we won't know. It might not be told until the season starts or, during the summer or whatever the case may be. But the fall off was definitely there. I was here for it the entire time. I'll keep taking my victory lap on that. But really, man, like I said, I just think, for the Seahawks, you got to get somebody out there to catch passes. And as you mentioned, they have a lot of picks. I think they have maybe like 5 or 6 picks in the first 50 or 60, something like that. So they have quite a few picks to be able to use. And what his ADP is something we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. But kudos to him, man, for going out and getting the bag at 31 years old, man. And I guess congratulations to the Seahawks. I guess I'm Ron Burgundy.
I mean, look, in a free agency that really the well dried up really quick. For any type of playmakers, potentially on the cheaper side of things, this is a good win for Seattle on paper. Like you said, coming down the stretch for us fantasy players, like, we're not totally in love with, the bad taste in our mouth from Cooper Kupp and what he left. But I'll be honest, and we'll talk about his ADP later. This is a spot where I think like it's a good place for him to rehab value. And more than likely, you're not going to be spending what you've been spending over the years past for Cooper Kupp.
No way.
So, and like I said, in a market where everything's somewhat already dried up for playmakers for the most part, this is still a solid gift for Seattle. And I look forward to what other receivers are going to still land. Because there's still a couple receivers out here that we're wondering where else they could potentially land as well. So, but yeah, like overall, I think him staying in the division is interesting, obviously.
Petty.
So it remains to be seen. Remains to be seen how it's all going to pan out. So I look forward to actually seeing that as well. Rest of the free agency aftermath, we're still waiting on a few spots for quarterback. Like your Steelers is in the running for that.
Oh my god, bro! Oh my god! Here we go. Here we go. The show already takes a drastic turn for the worse already. Shouldn't be wearing green. Somebody pinch me right now.
Hear he.
Yeah, wearing this green for all this. Yeah, wearing this green for the Jets and my quarterback Justin Fields is what I'm doing today. I'm just subconsciously. Ex-quarterback. He's still my quarterback.
Not my name.
In my heart, man. In my heart. In my heart.
QB's left on the board. Your guy, Russell Wilson.
Not my guy, but go
your
ahead.
guy, Aaron Rodgers.
Still not
your
my
guy,
guy.
Jameis Winston.
He's funny.
And last but not least, your favorite on this list, Joe Flacco.
Probably hate that guy the most out of all the names on the list.
I know.
Probably hate him the
most. So I mean, yeah, besides that, I mean, there's a ton of other crap for QBs.
Well, I think like you got like you have those guys, like you have all those guys right there, right? And I think there's
Trey Lance is still here, so it's like, you again, like
some Trey Lance, don't you?
No, I think it just has to be like I feel like we really haven't. Let's be honest. I don't think he's ever got a fair shake.
What is a fair shake?
A fair shake to me is you have at least one season where you're able to showcase your talent. I feel like Trey Lance hasn't really gotten that. Now, he got hurt that year. He was starting to roll. But since then, he ain't really had a moment. Like, he ain't really got an opportunity.
Hey, man, life comes at you fast.
I think, like, if I'm Tennessee, or like, it sure does. But it's like, if I'm looking at available spots where, there's not so many of them in a way, right? Like, if I'm Las Vegas, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm Las Vegas and I have Geno Smith, we all know Geno Smith is going to be a starter, but it's like at the same point, like, we got to get ready for the next couple of years. Like, and Trey Lance could potentially, sponge off Geno Smith. He knows what it's like to go from team to team, knows what it's like to be a veteran in the league. Like, so there's that spot. Like, there's a couple places, like even New Orleans, where what is New Orleans doing at quarterback? Derek Carr, but come on.
But just what is New Orleans doing
like,
in general?
All the stuff we saw with New Orleans last year, you don't think Trey Lance would have got an opportunity to do that? I don't know. I'm just putting things out there because I think that Trey Lance deserves another shake at this thing, because it's not like he was god awful when he started for San Francisco. So, and it was only so many moons ago we were talking about that. So,
yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, like,
based on the crop we have,
Yeah, I mean, free agent, yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm still like, maybe he can still develop, and I think like we've seen quarterbacks take time to develop, so I'll give you that for sure. Like, I think we just seen that obviously with Sam Darnold for sure, so I'll give you that. But like, I mean, I think there's got to be a reason why, right? Like, there's a reason why some of these teams that are, on the fence as far as quarterback play, haven't been able to, or haven't made a move to get him in there, man. So I think, maybe he learns from someone else. I think Dak Prescott, for everything that he gets, I think Dak Prescott is a pretty good quarterback, man. And I think that was a pretty good situation for him in, to learn and to be a part of, man. And I would even say the same thing in San Francisco to an extent, man, right? Like, maybe he's not on the field, but I think that's a really good staff of coaches. And obviously they've done a lot with less at quarterback over the last handful of years, but who knows, man, maybe he may get a shot and maybe in a situation where, he can go in and obviously be a backup and maybe he can get some reps, at some point in time during the season next year. But the rest of these guys, man, like,
we are with that. My thing was, it's like with mentioning Trey Lance, I feel like he still has some untapped potential. We already know in this list, we pretty much know all of these guys in this list. Like, we all pretty much know like what all of these guys are pretty much capable of.
Right.
So that's
I mean, we
on
like
the table.
we know. I mean, we know what it is, and like, I mean, at this point, it's there's a couple teams. You mentioned one of them, the Titans. I think that could be a really unique situation depending on where they decide to go. Which I think there's obviously still a lot of conversations.
All roads lead to Cam Ward.
Yeah. At this point, like, that's where we're at. So I think you have them. Obviously, you have the Giants, who obviously they need a quarterback. So Russ or Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston. Obviously, the names here, you can look at those guys. You got. I don't think Minnesota's in play. I truly don't. Then you have Cleveland. I think Cleveland's obviously a really intriguing spot, just because, again, they really don't have a quarterback. So it's going to be interesting coming down the stretch, man, here as far as like who signs where. And for the Steelers, man, I mean, just the drama already, like with Aaron Rodgers in this situation, it's like, we know who the partners are, man. Like, why is it really taking this long? I mean, and obviously the Mason Rudolph signing, for the Steelers, which doesn't really do anything for me. So yeah, man, I don't know, dude. I think that there's definitely my man Mac. No, I think there's definitely some really unique opportunities. You even mentioned it, man, in
Definitely.
Vegas. I think that could be one for any of those guys. But I think Russ and Aaron Rodgers, man, I think their egos are both too big. Russ is the only one I think that would go to a situation and potentially be a backup. He's the only one I think. But Aaron Rodgers, I think we all know Aaron Rodgers is not going to go back up anybody. And the other two, they've obviously been a backup. So, but yeah, man, I mean, like when you look at Aaron Rodgers, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year. Obviously not his best work for sure. And even like just looking at it from a statistical approach, man, Russ Wilson last year, statistically in a shorter amount of time, had better numbers than Aaron Rodgers, which is
That's
scary.
why I was
because,
like,
that's really scary because Aaron Rodgers looked really bad. And Russ, it seemed like there were moments where he looked really good, but when he was bad, he was really
bad,
really bad, man. So I don't know, man. Russ was, I think, he was QB 15 on average points last year. So he was a fringe QB1 in the short amount of time that he played. So as much as I don't want him in Pittsburgh back, from a fantasy perspective, he could be somebody that you could get in your drafts depending on where he gets drafted at, or not drafted, but depending on where he signs at. He could be somebody that could be a fringe. He could somebody that you could put in your lineup in a super flex. So I don't know, man. I think definitely a lot of meat on the bone as far as, well, I should say.
Man, I'm just curious. Who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting to sign for the Steelers?
Oh man, I said this already, and I'll say it again. We were just talking about Trey Lance, and of course, the only thing I could think about was, man, why don't they just pony up and just trade for Hendon Hooker? Just trade for my guy from UT, man. Trade for Hendon Hooker. He ain't gonna see the field with Jared Goff out there, man. And Hendon Hooker, man, if he don't blow a knee out, in the last game of the year with UT, man, who knows, bro? Like, maybe he goes. I think we talked about this before. Maybe he goes at the end of the first round. For everybody that's in love with Joe Milton, for as much as they love him, Hendon Hooker came in and took Joe Milton's spot and never gave it back. So I don't know, man. And then I've read, obviously, not to go too much down the rabbit hole, but I've been reading reports and stuff, and I even kind of thought this was a possibility. Shedeur, I think that would be one of the few places I think Prime would actually sign off for his son would be, with Coach Tomlin. So I think that could end up being a very interesting, intriguing situation. So I think there's that, and obviously Jackson Dart. But if you ask me who would I want on this list, unfortunately, I have to say Aaron Rodgers. I can't say anybody else because we've already done the Russell Wilson experiment. So, yeah, give me Aaron, I guess, man, and we'll call it good.
Good Lord.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Aaron. All right, then.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of dried up wells, the running backs, man.
Oh
wow.
Man.
It's just crazy how thin, I'm saying, now the running backs have gotten. It's so crazy. Outside of these names, we're talking about Gus Edwards, Cam Akers, Zeke's still around, right?
What to push. Yeah.
It's just oh my goodness, Jeff Wilson's, Jamal Williams is. All these guys are definitely RB2 committee backs. I think it's curious. I'm curious to kind of find out when these guys get signed, because I think if someone team was smart, they definitely go grab Nick Chubb and find out what else he has left. But it remains to be seen what he does have left in the tank. Matt's asking about ranking these three running backs in their new homes, and that's a good segue. Because in terms of J.K. Dobbins and in terms of Nick Chubb, it's we kind of know what those guys are. We're talking about those guys really in a way aren't going to wow us. They're committee backs at this point, dare I say. Even if Nick Chubb is somehow going to take a footload of a committee, we can't rely on him to be, what he used to be.
No.
But yeah, ranking the running backs that Matt has posted. So he's talking about Najee Harris, he's a Charger now. Talking about Jordan Mason, he's now a Viking. And Raheem Mostert, he is now wearing the black and white. Vegas. Yeah, look, Najee clearly the number one. He's gonna have his opportunity to lead, you could say probably committee still. But Najee Harris would be the 1A. of the committee that maybe they tried to go grab a running back in the draft, whatever. But Najee Harris still the 1A easily. Then it comes down to Mason Mostert. Like Mason's an interesting guy to draft, just like last year, because with Aaron Jones' history, you know what I'm saying, in general for injuries, like it's a possible place to, pick up somebody. But again, with Raheem Mostert, it's like, look, this guy's what, 33, 34? 34?
Late 30s, not a lot of tread though, but
sorry,
still,
so he'll be 30. He'll be 33 in April.
Yeah.
Be 33 in April. How much tread, those tires left have you? I don't know, but I don't want to touch that situation. So it comes down to Mason being, so it's just like how you have it. It's Najee, it's Mason, it's Mostert. If I got desperate, if I'm in a really, really deep league, like a 18, 20 team league, like Raheem Mostert would be like, an interesting case. But even then, I don't even want to talk about that. I don't want to make a case for Raheem Mostert, honestly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's Najee, I think, by like a Mississippi mile for me. I think he's gonna
mile.
Yeah, mile, man. He's gonna have a chance to go to an offense that they're gonna run the ball, but they're gonna be creative in how they run the ball. And I've seen obviously, watching the press conference with a little tear in my eye, talking about how, he would still likes to be used in the passing game, and that didn't happen when he was in Pittsburgh. So I look for for him to go to the Chargers and continue. I think he's probably even going to have a better year than he previously had with the Steelers for sure. And then Mason, like you said, man, just because of I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think you nailed it, Nick. But Mason in that Minnesota offense, if everything continues to progress the way that it has in that offense, I think you can see him obviously be potentially viable as far as like if an Aaron Jones injury happens, he's 1 year older. And Mostert, what does that running back situation like even look like outside of him? I think they still have like Dylan Lobby from New Hampshire, I think. They got him, maybe they actually draft somebody, but if they don't, maybe he ends up being they still have homeboy that everybody was drafting last year, Zamir White. They have him. They still have Sincere McCormick as well. So I think to your point, it's more of a headache than anything, like with that Raider backfield. But yeah, it's Najee by a Mississippi mile, man.
It by Mississippi mile.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, look, a segue that I just wanted to queue up was the Cowboys running back room. Because look, Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, they definitely need to draft a running back in the draft, right?
I think they need to draft one, but I think for me it's a situation where I don't know, man. Like you have two guys that like maybe combined, maybe they stay healthy, but like the Cowboys have other needs than running back now. So like where do they draft one at? Maybe like, in the second or third round, maybe so. I think there's a lot of teams that fall into that situation that need running backs. I think New Orleans is one of those situations where teams need running backs. So like there's still a lot of questions. There's more questions than answers, I think. But Javonte Williams is somebody that honestly, I haven't completely written him off yet. I think he's a couple years removed from the injury. I think obviously him playing in Denver and not really having any type of like consistency as far as like getting volumes. I mean, I'm curious to see. Yeah. I would absolutely take a late flyer on him. I do think they need something that's there for sure. They need some kind of insurance because I think Miles Sanders is not going to be able to hold up. So to answer your question, yeah, I'll say they draft a running back, man. Day two or day three for sure, but they have to address the position in some fashion. Other than these two potentially injury-prone backs or lack of production. Really, one's injury-prone and the other one is just lack of production. So they do need to address it in some fashion. Yeah.
It was just weird that how Sean Payton really split the work up. We really thought Javonte. If I would just say this, I thought Javonte Williams was going to be like a 1A in this backfield, But it was like Jaleel McLaughlin constantly kind of eating away at the workload and eventually taking over as 1A. It was just like such a weird thing to happen. Like, it was just Javonte Williams going from a guy that we could potentially be an RB3 flex, and then all of a sudden just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So
No.
I mean, you're hoping in Dallas that the situation is a little different. And we'll get to that a little bit later too. But Dallas has to drive a younger running back. Like they missed out on like the last several, ever since Zeke is like really was like they knew
I mean,
they replaced
they
Zeke
had a
with
running back. They
somebody.
had a running back that was relatively
Tony
productive, and
Pollard.
they just let him
Yeah.
go to Carolina. So
No, let him
I
go to
mean,
freaking Tennessee and free agency.
hey, you
So
had that one too.
like,
Yeah, you had that one too.
it's like
Yeah.
it was just very weird. Receivers. Remaining free agent receivers, which surprises me a little bit that some of these guys are still here. Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Keelan Allen are probably the top three, obviously. And then Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, and then Elijah Moore. Yeah, like I understand why people don't want to sign Stephon Diggs yet. That injury happened, I want to say late October. I think.
Yeah, it was early. It was like week
I
7, week 8, maybe something like
want to say
that.
it was around that time. It was something around that time. But people, the reports saying that he's, nearing a full recovery at this time. And I probably don't buy that. I think Stephon Diggs is more likely he's fully recovered in the next 3 months. So around June. So I mean, maybe he gets a nice little 1-year prove it deal, potentially with somebody else. But Amari Cooper is someone that is also a little puzzling because it's like from a both real life and fantasy perspective, like we thought the situation of him going to Buffalo was going to be beneficial. Turned out it was just a lot of mess and a lot of like, I can't trust this guy in my lineups. And then Keelan Allen, who would pop up for a decent game every once in a while in Chicago. Hopefully he finds a situation that still is fantasy friendly. But in terms of like those three guys alone, what do you see fit for some of these guys that are left on the board?
Talked about this one too. I think Steph Diggs, honestly, the segue, Steph Diggs to the Cowboys, I think makes the most sense for me. I think just because they
They're
need
cheap.
more help. They need more help at receiver. And obviously, his brother plays there. And I think, when you give Dak Prescott that amount of money, you know exactly what they're going to be doing, more times than not. They're going to be throwing the football. So I like that situation potentially for Steph Diggs in a situation where, he's still trying to compete, man. And there's not too many teams that have a need at wide receiver that are still trying to compete. I think you could throw the Green Bay Packers in there as a team that needs a true wide receiver and not a gadget guy because obviously no Christian Watson, for potentially for a greater part of the season or if at all. So I think Steph Diggs could definitely be there. Keenan Allen is like the one that's really like the most puzzling for me, man, because I think Keenan Allen can still play. I still think he can play, and I still think there's a lot of really good football. He has a lot of good football left in him. Obviously he's never been running by anybody. I know they said he came in big last year, as far as from like a weight perspective, but I definitely think again he's somebody too. Like I know the Packers have like a ton. They have a group of wide receivers very similar to what the Buffalo Bills do in terms of not having a guy, but they have a group of individuals. I would like to see maybe see him there. I think that would be a very interesting fit for him. I'm going to go back to Jacksonville, although I think that'll be an extremely difficult sell for a guy like Keenan Allen that's a veteran that's going after a Super Bowl ring. There was still talk about him winding up with the Chargers. I think just going back to, home is where the heart is for him. So I think that, and then Amari Cooper, one of the more interesting spots I personally think that would be really telling, I guess would be the phrase I would use. But New Orleans, just because he has a previous history with Derek Carr. Obviously, you have Rashid Shaheed coming off the injury, right? And then Chris Olave has obviously had his own set of problems as far as staying on the field, as far as like concussions going, things like that. But then, some other names, some other teams that got bought up for these three guys as well were teams like the Carolina Panthers. Maybe somebody looking for another receiver, somebody that can bring a veteran presence in there with Thielen and Xavier Legette or Jalen Coker. And then the New England Patriots. We all know what they don't have as far as pass catchers go. So I think any of those three names would be really, really big for them, except for the only problem is, right, like with all three of those guys, when I see all three of those names, I just think like they don't want to go to a situation where they're not going to have a chance to win. So I think all these guys, whether it's now or whether it's later, because this situation and the running back situation we were just talking about with Dobbins and Nick Chubb, like those are situations where you can sign later on in the summer and still have an impact versus a quarterback, right? Like needing to be in OTAs, needing to go through the process, especially like with a different team and things like that. So I think it might be one of those situations where like maybe they hang out and wait and see like, okay, does a team address the wide receiver position in the draft? Does someone get hurt in OTAs? Is someone, potentially going to try to, I know they can't hold out with the new CBA deal, but is somebody going to be in a situation like that, right? And I think that's what I look at. And that's what I think about when I think about, those three names we were just talking about.
I think they all have their unique cases, right? For depending on what teams really buy for them. Going back to Keenan Allen, man, I wouldn't mind him becoming a Jet.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice spot for him, actually, man.
It's a nice move there. And I'm not trying to be homeboyish. It's just more about like you want to get Justin Fields a weapon that he's comfortable with early on. Like there you have it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So outside obviously Garrett Wilson, but again, Keenan Allen can be the, let's just say, the Wayne Grabett to Lavernius Coles.
Oh my God. The flashlight.
Jericho Cotchery in the building. So I mean, I'm just saying. So yeah, you want to beef up your offense, I'm saying, scheme anyway. Keenan makes the most sense. Amari Cooper, essentially the same thing. Love Stephon Diggs. It's just more about, though, it's like he's probably not coming to New York. If anything, he's going to the other New York team, not the Giants, the Bills.
You think so, man? That
could be a reunion.
That feels like that bridge was burned, bro.
I thought that bridge was burned too.
That bridge
I'm seeing some things. I'm seeing some tea leaves, and I'm like, I'm not going to count it out. So remains to be seen. Deontay Johnson is another interesting name that we have here. I don't know where he could land at this point, though, honestly.
I know where he can land.
Yeah, God, here we go. Where?
On the couch.
Sick. That's just really sick. You can use him out in Pittsburgh, can't you?
Listen, we got our own shit going on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy. We got our own list to deal with. Yeah, you still don't have a quarterback yet.
Like I said, he can be on the couch.
You're starting right now, Mason Rudolph.
Who got us to the playoffs, a place that the Jets don't know about. So there's that.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just saying.
Just worry about getting your signal caller first.
Listen, man. Listen, we at the dance every year. You know what I mean? Like we there.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yep. Yeah, just making it to the dance.
Hey, man.
Last player.
A lawyer that graduates with a C in law school. A lawyer.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oof, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on. DK Metcalf is ADP redraft right now, according to FFPC, where most of fantasy football, the pros, so to speak, in the industry play. So current to redraft, and is FFPC also tight end premium now?
You can have it be. You can have it be tight end premium. There's some of them that are like that. They offer super flex. They offer tight end premium. They offer super flex tight end premium as well. But this is just from a PPR side of things.
Yeah. So I mean, 5.5, right in the middle of a 12-team, 5th round selection. Like, I guess it depends on setting. Like, I didn't know if it was tight end premium or not, but I mean, obviously 5th round. Boy, that's like right there for me. Literally, it's like I already have probably 2 receivers at this point, so grabbing DK Metcalf for my third right there makes a ton of sense. If he's my second, sure. I mean, I like what this is like looking like. I like the potential of a DK Metcalf, and it's like we're maybe like 6 or 8 games away from it being a compa situation. It doesn't come through early on.
I
Not
mean,
completely,
yeah.
not completely. But I'm just saying in general, like I know people are excited he's gonna be a new uniform and stuff like that. But remember, Pittsburgh is still a balanced offense for the most part. There's gonna be times where they're still gonna want to run the ball, stuff like that. So it's a fair spot. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I just think I think the biggest thing for me, like that I found interesting was like for him to be at 5'5" with no quarterback. Well, I say
Right.
no quarterback, but Mason Rudolph. I found that kind of like, all right, like, well, maybe, but to your point, like I think it's more of a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 kind of deal. For sure. I think they'll obviously
It's a
be
George Pickens spot.
yeah, it
Hey.
is. It's the George Pickens spot all
It's a
over
George
again.
Pickens spot all over again.
Yeah. Which I, I won't even unearth that. Because I do strongly believe if George Pickens plays the last 3 or 4 games of the year, he definitely. I don't. This move still happens, but I think it's a different conversation on how he was viewed to finish the year or whatever. Because let's not forget he was playing some really good football there before the injury. But yeah, DK Metcalf, man, like him and George Pickens, ironically, were 2 guys I rostered a lot of last year. Just because like I felt like Seattle throwing the ball a lot more. That was a really good opportunity for DK Metcalf and to be healthy. But yeah, man, I mean 5'5", I think it raises more questions than answers. But for right now, if he was my wide receiver 3, I would take that all day long and twice on Sunday.
And then our comparison right now, Flowers or Metcalf. I just would. It's really hard. Just at this point in time, I'm just gonna say Zay Flowers. I know for the most part what I'm
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah.
and with DK, yes, like structurally, I'm looking at this situation right now as a wide receiver 2 here because sometimes 5th round, it's like you're looking to probably balance out your roster a little bit, or you're trying to get a positional advantage potentially, or just finish off. Like if I get this as a 3rd receiver, I won't be drafting a receiver for another 2 rounds for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why I kind of look at it. And with Zay Flowers, like, I just know what I'm getting a little bit more here for the most part. Zay Flowers, more of a wide receiver 2, to me than Metcalf is, like just based on what we've seen. And again, both of these guys are gonna have their spottier-ish performances. Like your Zay Flowers gonna have those 5 catches for like 40 yards, gonna have those floor games. Metcalf's gonna have, you know, his 4 catches for like 60 yards. So the floor might be a little higher for DK in a vacuum. But I would say like with Zay Flowers, it's still like Ravens still have that, he's still a Ravens wide receiver 1 overall.
Yeah.
With a Ravens team that, showed that they could still throw the ball more capable of just like running all the time with Derrick Henry. So just give me Zay Flowers at the moment in time. I refrain to change my answer at some point though.
Yeah, no, actually, I mean, this is actually a spot where, like, I just, looking at it, I'm like, all right, like this, I think this is a good conversation, right? Because if you're
Yeah,
in a
totally.
PPR format, right, like more likely than not, I just think just based off of the way the offense is run, I think Zay Flowers probably has the potential to end up with more receptions than DK Metcalf. Probably not more yards, although Zay he can make some big plays. But again, like Zay Flowers is playing with Lamar Jackson, and I think this offense is, from a schematic standpoint, we know how creative the Ravens can be, and we know what can happen, and we know they can play any type of football game you want. Like if they get up big, they can smash you in the face. If it's a shootout, they can obviously go back and forth. Yes, I agree, Hoove. If Pickens gets traded, yes, but please don't wish that on me yet, man. Don't wish that on me yet. Listen, I got to keep my crazies together, man. But yeah, man,
Lord.
like I said, I do like Zay Flowers just a touch more than DK at this point in time for sure.
Don't give him a heart attack.
Please don't, man. Please don't. Two of my favorite wide receivers on one. Like I said, I was the happiest man in the world on Sunday night. I was so happy. I was so happy. DK Metcalf, George Pickens. I'm like, shit, we about to get ready to roll out. Like DK, GP, Fields. Let's go back to Mason. All right.
He's the only non-Cardinals player announced to be playing a Kyler Murray softball game. Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
I love it.
Oh, Lord. Kyler Murray softball game.
Yeah, well, don't worry, man. Kyler might end up, he might not be too far off, man. Shout out to the A's. Yeah.
God.
I know,
so
right?
now we have another comparison, Metcalf or Courtland Sutton. So, yeah. You know, if Sutton's value, like if his place for ADP, it'd be crazy if Sutton's like ADP rises up even more for where it is. But I would take Metcalf because of at some point I like Courtland Sutton. We know he's going to bring a solid floor. We saw some ceiling games from last year clearly. But I do think that at some point you want a little bit of. I know Metcalf, like we talked about, may not have the highest of all ceilings all the time, and he does provide some similar floors at times. But at some point, it's like Metcalf is his ceiling higher than Sutton's can be game by game. There's a ton of potential for that. But both of these guys going 6 picks apart from each other, it's like it's not the craziest situation. It's just like, can Courtland Sutton do it again? Is my whole question. It's like, can Sutton just do it one more time again? If he can, then it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe Sutton after the previous year, that could be, where if this is like 6th round Sutton, I'm cool with it. Like, I'm definitely taking Sutton. Cool. Like, it's like literally we're talking about picks away. Like, if we're talking about 12 team, like Courtland Sutton's going 6'2" instead of 5'11", like that's nice. I'll take that value. 5'11". You make other cases for other receivers in a way, which is so weird and so nitpicky. But
I feel like these guys, what DK Metcalf is like 27 or 28, 27 maybe.
Receiver 27. Oh, we're talking about age.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to, because like it's really kind of crazy because I'm pretty sure their builds are pretty similar, man, and like. Courtland Sutton, I think obviously what he did now in retrospect, doing what he did with Russ playing quarterback was pretty impressive. And then last year, obviously, he was
Sutton will be 30 in October.
Yeah.
DK is 27. He'll be
okay.
Sorry. Yeah. DK is 27.
Okay.
He'll
All
be,
right. Man,
this
is
be
tough.
20.
Actually,
He'll be 20.
Yeah.
He'll be 27 when they're doing basically throughout the whole season.
Oh, man, golly, dude.
I know. I know.
Man, I
know.
And this is probably just because I got burned so bad. I shouldn't say burned, but just probably because of everything that happened.
I'm usually not a Metcalf drafter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm usually not a Metcalf drafter because he always goes around before he needs to. More of a flashier name than he does production. But I do think the new spot in Pittsburgh can really open him up, like to ways in which Seattle was not utilizing him, because there were definitely times where you're like, what is Seattle doing?
Well, he's guaranteed for 2 bangers anyway, man, going against the Bengals defense. So he's guaranteed at least the Bengals. But then you also have the Browns, which they've been a little bit better on as far as like the pass defense goes. But I guess I digress. Yeah, man. I guess if I'm on the clock, man, I'm probably just gonna take Courtland Sutton. And again, the reason why I'm probably gonna take him, man, is again the quarterback situation, and maybe Bo Nix regresses, man. Maybe he regresses, but also too it's a matter of target situation as well. Although Evan Ingram is back in the house for them, so actually no, let me go back. I'll go back. I'll take DK. I'll go back on it. I'll go back. I literally just I'm sitting here. I'm like, man, there's. I don't want to say there's nobody else that's there because Marvin Mims is there. He looked pretty good coming down the stretch. But, yeah, I guess DK. But this one is a tight one right here, man. Because these
yeah.
Everybody knows, man. I love Cortland Sutton, man.
You do.
I love Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, you do.
Oh man,
part of the Cortland Sutton fan club over there. You know,
yeah, definitely was.
I get yourself a jersey. You know what I'm saying?
It's orange. It's orange. Or I can get an orange one anyway. But yeah, I mean, I like last year, Cortland Sutton, right? 81 catches, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. So obviously he had a really, really good year, man. You know, as far as from a fantasy perspective, and especially like from the value from where you got him at too, man. Like if you're looking at the two of these guys just from last year, where he drafted DK, where he drafted Cortland Sutton, hell of a value on Cortland Sutton if you ended up landing him, man. So, you know, pretty cheap. And obviously he paid off dividends as I believe as a wide receiver 1, I believe, for last year.
I think I think high tier wide receiver 2. I don't think he finished a wide receiver 1. I don't think. I have to look that up.
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
Cooper Kupp currently going middle of the 8th round at FFPC. You know, I do think that's a little bit too far. I understand. Yeah. Again, I understand how people felt at the end of the year with Cooper Kupp. I just think 8.6 is too low. My ADP in my head was saying like end of the 6th. So if you're telling me he's going middle of the 8th, I wouldn't mind taking Cooper Kupp in the 7th. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those guys that with production, you know what I'm saying? Like you want that solid productivity. You know what I'm saying? Even though we can't exactly 100% gauge right now, I'm okay with taking one of my later mid-round pick selections in the 7th round and be like, all right, like we all know what Cooper Kupp can be, obviously. And we all know what he may not be anymore. He has to be somewhere in the middle. He has to be somewhere in the middle of all that. So on FFPC, where's around the range? What? So looks like we have for comparisons Debo or Kupp, and then we have Ridley or Kupp. So let's start with Debo first. I would take Debo in this situation.
100%.
As much as I like Cooper, Kupp,
100%.
I do buy that Debo still has the overall, pathway to other touches outside of where he lines up. I do think Cliff Kingsbury can masterfully like utilize him in similar ways that he should be getting utilized, that San Francisco was like using him at first and kind of got away from for whatever reason. So they can use him out, at a lot of different ways. Debo's one of those like special players that you can utilize on a lot of different things offensively. And then, Ridley over Cooper Kupp, which gets interesting. Because Calvin Ridley, so many times we were like, Calvin Ridley this week, then the next week, no, he sucks.
No,
too much inconsistencies, Yeah,
you were the Calvin Ridley whisperer for sure. You were the Calvin Ridley whisperer for sure.
Ironically, but you drafted him.
I had it literally. I had him.
You drafted him more leagues than I did.
So many.
I'm like, this is the week. This is the week, John. This is the week. You better get him in your DraftKings. He's like, man, now that you said that.
Now that you said that, 5 minutes before kickoff. You know what? You're probably right because I'm just jaded by his 3-point performance from the previous week. And by the way, Cortland Sutton was wide receiver 15 last year, so very close to
wide receiver 2. Yep. Yeah. He was close.
Yeah.
But yeah, Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp gets very interesting. I mean, at this point, I know we're going to be playing quarterback for Seattle. So give me Cooper Kupp in this situation. But again, I have the right to change my opinion in a matter of months. Just because I do think Calvin Ridley, he's 30, Cooper Kupp's 31.
Cooper Kupp's 31. He's 31 for sure.
He'll be 30.
Calvin Ridley, remember he got them DraftKings legs too, baby. He got them DraftKings legs, He had a year off. He had them DraftKings legs.
Did.
So.
He did have a year off too. But I can definitely change my opinion at some point because if Cam Ward gets drafted by Tennessee, that would be a little bit more interesting. That would be a little bit then the conversation would go a little bit more neck and neck. But I think right now Cooper Kupp for me, just because I know Sam Darnold's there and because Seattle's still in a sense, was offensive friendly, I'm saying last year. So remains to be seen how it will go, but give me Cooper Kupp for the moment. You were in agreement with Debo, right?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Debo. And man, like, if you out there in chat, man, like, we want to hear from you too. Like on, like, what would you take? Right? Who would you be taking, man, for sure? Like, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, man. We want to hear what you guys have to think too. But I think Debo and Kupp, it's more about, I think like obviously Cliff Kingsbury plays a role in it, but I just think Debo and any type of, revolution he's going to have next year, man. I think it's going to be more about Jaden Daniels, obviously, man, just, again, not being able to plan for, that type of speed and those type of things right there. So definitely Debo. When I seen the ADPs like on these two, I was like, yeah, I'm smashing Debo every single time. And I feel like Debo's draft stock should go up. And like, man, we talk about Cooper Kupp. Like I said, those last 5 games, don't fall in love with the name brand, man, because the 25 yards, man, 25 yards is what he was averaging over those last 5 games. I don't give a shit who your name is. If that's your wide receiver 4 or your flex, like that ain't it, man. Like that ain't it. So I think I'm going to be a little bit more leery of Cooper Kupp going into the year for sure. Because and someone made this statement last year. I can't remember where I was listening to it at, and I kind of fell victim of hearing like, oh, like Cooper Kupp is back, like he's healthy, he's back. But really, man, like if you take away that Triple Crown year of Cooper Kupp's.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm just like, I'm not all the way in on that, man. And then Calvin Ridley, like you said, man, if it's Cam Ward, big, strong guy like Cam Ward, throwing Calvin Ridley the ball. Calvin Ridley's still the number 1 wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans for sure. Like nothing's changed like in that aspect of things. And so I think like when you're looking at, who else is it going to be?
Oh no,
Calvin. Yeah, I was like, I thought you were saying that because like you were like,
I'm just saying the situation is like it's still volatile. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to I understand what you're saying though.
Yeah, like he's the guy. Like with Kupp, like you have JSN, and like what that's gonna be, right? Like obviously JSN is gonna be featured for sure. But like at the end of the day, man, give me Calvin Ridley, give me that situation in that shitty division. I know Stingley just got paid, I think today, I believe it was. But like shout out to him for sure for getting paid. But give me Calvin Ridley, man. Give me Calvin Ridley with Cam Ward potentially as the quarterback. He still was able to put up a decent performance last year, even with terrible QB play.
In and out quarterback.
Yeah. He finished last year as a wide receiver. He was a wide receiver 3 last year. He finished a wide receiver 30 last year, for sure. But he definitely had, he had some big games, man, and he had some games that were shit. But I think that's what you would expect, right, from your wide receiver. That's what you would expect from a wide receiver 3, man. So I'll be willing to roll the dice on Calvin Ridley over Cooper Kupp if this ADP stays the same.
Understandable. That's really understandable. The next would be what is it? The going back to the running backs, we should say. Najee Harris. He is 7.1 currently on FFPC. So that's interesting. And then him or Pacheco, and then him or his former teammate, Jaylen Warren. I think between him and Pacheco,
division mates now as well. On top of that,
division mates now.
We're gonna get the chance to see these guys face off.
Yeah, that's definitely. This is probably the tightest one tonight. Conversation wise, I'm just gonna go Najee because I know Najee. I still go back to his first year in the league, second year in the league, where he was catching all these passes out the backfield.
It was his first year
with Ben Roethlisberger. So it was like I want to see some of that more often. So hopefully the Chargers kind of can manufacture touches like that for him. Because I know Najee Harris is good in space, I'm saying as well. So that would be the thing that would probably push it over for me. For Najee. But Pacheco, obviously, he's someone that, I feel like he's better, more real life than he is fantasy, really. And the Kansas City Chiefs, like, they always do weird stuff in their offenses, So, what I'm saying? Like, you bring in these guys, but you don't really.
You mean they play that damn team game football and don't feature people?
Yeah.
Is that what they do, them assholes?
Yeah, they throw the ball at the goal line at times. So Kareem Hunt can find himself, being the 1B in the committee. So there's just a lot of question marks at this time. So give me Najee Harris for the moment, which I know should, for the most part, Chargers may draft someone younger, but I think Najee Harris can still have the opportunity to be RB1 for the Chargers when we talk about, the draft season upcoming. So, like I said, the interesting conversation is Harris and Jaylen Warren, but where do you stand with Pacheco? Where do you stand with Harris?
I'm standing with Najee. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier. I think this is probably going to be one of Najee's better seasons. And his rookie year, 74 receptions is what you were talking about with Ben Roethlisberger. That's where you added. Najee was he was an RB2 last year, and so was like J.K. Dobbins, and obviously just kind of using that as the benchmark as far as like, all right, like obviously we know the offense will look very similar. And J.K. Dobbins missed, I think 5-6 games last year. And one of Najee's staples has been that he's been very durable. So if he is able to, continue with that quality, he could be an upper echelon running back too, because we know one thing about them Harbaugh boys, they want to run the ball for sure. So I think there's that, and I think there's also too, like, not to downplay the fact that obviously I love Ben Roethlisberger, truther. Last year Ben Roethlisberger, he was a shell of himself. So you're playing with Justin Herbert, who is absolutely the best quarterback that he's seen since he's been in the NFL.
Ben Roethlisberger played last year? Awesome.
No, Ben Roethlisberger's last year was Najee Harris's first year.
No.
So like this is the best that Najee.
You wish he played last.
Yeah, I do. I wish he played last year. So I like Isaiah Pacheco, but I was just kind of taking a quick glance over some stuff and like, obviously 3 years in the league, only one time he's barely eclipsed over 200 carries. So I think obviously, carries, injury history, and as you mentioned, those damn Chiefs, they do weird things like play this team game called football, utilizing everybody on the field. Damn you, Andy Reid. So yeah, give me Najee Harris, man, for sure. And then with Jaylen Warren, I think it's a very similar situation, bro. I think with Jaylen Warren, like the biggest thing with him is like, A, can he stay healthy, right? Can he stay healthy? And then B, do the Pittsburgh Steelers draft somebody that comes in? And like, I know they got Kenny Gainwell, man, but like Kenny Gainwell ain't it. And I think Jaylen Warren is more of a change of pace for sure. I like what he does like in the passing game for sure. But again, like that's to be determined. So give me Najee Harris over Jaylen Warren. Give me Najee in both spots for sure. I like where he's going, and I think Najee's somebody that, as the weather starts to get warmer and the reports start to, trickle out more, I think he's somebody that's going to start moving up more on people's draft boards.
Yeah, because we have to still let things cool out. Not cool out, but find out what happens. Because if they don't bring anybody else in Pittsburgh, Jaylen Warren could be a guy that. He probably rises up from where he is, but then I would like to see like how that transition, because I would still want to take Najee.
I ain't buying Jaylen Warren's
just because
wolf
we
tickets.
feel like he has a workload that. Wolf tickets.
Jive turkey.
Called it wolf tickets.
Wolf tickets. I ain't buying them wolf tickets. Jive turkey.
Javonte Williams, 14th round right now.
Woo!
Makes a ton of sense. Like I'm saying, like based on how he finished out last year and what he really did, like now he's entered a situation where again, like him and Miles Sanders, like, and then when the Cowboys drafted a young running back, so remains to be seen like how it's gonna pay out. But I mean, 14th round for Javonte, I could take him as my RB4. That's not a problem.
Absolutely.
RB5, that's not a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Clearance prices at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, it is like, you know,
Yeah, man.
so easy does it. That was easy.
Yeah, yeah. Get your and JV Williams here at the end of the transaction for a 30% discount.
Oh boy, yo. And then Evan Ingram landing in Denver now.
This is our tight end
Tight end,
premium here
tight
too.
end premium.
This is tight end premium here.
So the end of the 8th round for the most part. Be him or Travis Kelsey, and then him or Deontay, not Deontay, Dalton Kincaid. So yeah, look, we'll go over Travis Kelsey first. You know what I'm saying? Like Kelsey, man, he's always better in the playoffs, man.
Always.
Kelsey's always been player in the playoffs,
always,
man.
Always. Like I said, man,
just
it's Possum right there, man. Someone start calling it Possum.
Right, right, yeah. Literally, though, like for real, though. Like
literally.
I guess my problem here is that like both of them are kind of obviously Travis Kelsey's older. But he has the the track record in a way. Evan Ingram, he does as well, but we always know he's down, he's down for an injury. So he's always like, tapping to both of us last year. Shoot.
Yeah.
So and then that's where he was in Jacksonville, where it was like he didn't have many other receiving threats, so to speak, in general. But yeah, look, now new situation in Denver. The only talk, the only thing that would make it a lot more interesting is that if Sean Payton, he's formerly used a role called the Joker for his offense, offensive like mismatch of weapon. That's what Jimmy Graham was so good use of for Darren Sproles, that role. So I mean, if he's bringing that role in Denver, like he's maybe tried to do, like Greg Dulcich come to mind. That's why I was so high on him because I thought he could be the guy that he could have utilized, but that never really came to fruition due to injuries and how they overall use the offense. So this would make the interesting a little bit more conversation a little more interesting if that's the role Evan Ingram's going to play. But again, I would probably still take Evan Ingram. The only reason why is because Travis Kelsey, like, again, he's always been a playoff guy. You know what I'm saying? He's always been that. So even it's like if Travis Kelsey gave us like a big game, the only time we probably really see that is a big prime time matchups or whatever, or big time games against Buffalo or whatever. So he wouldn't be someone I would probably actively go look to draft. If he drops down the board a whole round, you know what I'm saying? Then I'd be like, all right, cool. So that makes sense. I'd probably grab Travis Kelsey there along with somebody else. So, but are you on the same plane? Something different? You like Travis Kelsey?
It's funny. This is like I love this, man. I love this. I love these conversations for sure. Just Travis Kelsey was tight end 5 last year.
That's crazy, right?
That's insane. That's insane. Insane, dude. Insane. So even I think you know what this is reminding me of, and I always like date myself all the time. I'm like, oh, do you remember when? But this like really reminds me of the slight decline of Tony Gonzalez. Still relevant, still worth playing at that point in time. But like you're just not gonna pay a premium price for Travis Kelsey. And if we're at a place right now where we're in the 8th round and it's him or Evan Ingram, and you have the opportunity to get a top 5 tight end, I think Travis Kelsey's obviously still gonna end up being a top 10 tight end barring injury.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But like I think the thing with Evan Ingram is like it has been very inconsistent for him. Very inconsistent for him. And obviously the 2023 campaign was a monster one for him. But other than that right there, man, you go back and check the records. And granted, man, a lot of things changed, obviously, offensive coordinator situations, players around them. Other than that situation, it's been pretty status quo. So I think this really just shakes down to, a matter of, if you are in the same draft, right? Like goes back to the question we just had, ironically enough, Courtland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Evan Ingram or Travis Kelsey, right? Yep. And both Evan Ingram and Courtland Sutton are, we're on the back end of this right here. So for me, I would probably take Travis Kelsey, man. It would be very close for me, but I would take Travis Kelsey and just hope for the best, man. Like honestly, at this point, because we've seen, to your point, we've seen Travis Kelce do it, for forever and a day. Evan Ingram, new situation. And he's 30 years old too, man. Like it's not like he's a spring chicken either, man. Like Evan Ingram is, I think he's 30 years old.
I know, right?
So
Yeah.
I think some of the same concerns that you have for Travis Kelce are warranted and valid for Evan Ingram as well.
Yeah. That's where it makes it tougher for tight end
Yeah.
premium. That's why just give me George Kittle.
Right.
Give me George Kittle. Just give me George Kittle.
Oh, shit.
But now Evan Ingram or Dalton Kincaid, and God, just give me.
Where's Dustin at when you need him?
Oh, I know, right? Like for real. But the problem with Buffalo is just there's so many. I just can't outright be confident in drafting Dalton Kincaid now. Like last year was supposed to be the year, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, will it ever be the year? So, I guess I'm picking between the two. I would just pick Evan Ingram in hopes that he would he gets the touches as a secondary option on the team, in terms of targets potentially. Dalton Kincaid, like it's always something with this Buffalo team. So
it's always something with that guy.
It is though, for fantasy purposes. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's always something with them. So I just can't buy him at the moment. Like again, like I could change my opinion in a few months. But it's like, man, like I don't know. So but give me Evan Ingram at the moment just because he's done it, you know what I'm saying, before versus Dalton Kincaid. He really hasn't. At some point, yeah, you do want to grab Dalton Kincaid, but not what it's this close ADP wise. Like if it's another 6 or 8 picks after where he's going from Evan Ingram, I could buy into that. I could buy into that price.
Yeah. No, I'm rolling with Evan Ingram on this one, man. Like Dalton Kincaid, like golly, man, like what an organized poop show. What an organized poop show. For him, man. I just wide receiver 26 on the year. I mean, excuse me, tight end 26 on the year. He missed a couple of games, man, but like overall, like he had like, guys like Austin Hooper and Tyler Conklin and Noah Gray. Like they don't have any business being ahead of him, man. Like for sure. And that's just like that, like for real. Like, and like, we mentioned, man, like, now they bring in Josh Palmer as well, which I mean, it's not anything like flashy, but it's something that I think fits what they want to do, where it's a group versus like the guy. And obviously Evan Ingram, man, could be, but like, yeah, just give me Evan Ingram every day, man. Like I'll take this one for sure, especially like them being this close in draft capital to literally 2 picks away from each other. Give me Evan Ingram, man, and like I'll take the chance on any potential upside because I think with Dalton Kincaid, it just looks like this was a reach for the Buffalo Bills, and we all as fantasy managers had anticipated him breaking the slate as a tight end just by just sheer numbers, right? Like sheer numbers and being like
just sheer mediocrity at position too.
Right. Like we just all thought like this was it, but we were sadly mistaken, my friend.
We sure were, unfortunately, but that's all right. That's all right. We weren't the only ones.
No,
weren't the only ones.
To quote last but not least, man, I want to make sure I get it right.
Oh God.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Vince McMahon. Oh God, go ahead. No, you brought up something, Vince McMahon.
I was gonna say, you can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool some of the people all the time.
God, go somewhere. Well, last but not least, Darnold, Justin Fields. This is an easy one for me, by the way.
Easy one for me too, man.
Justin Fields.
Yeah. At a significant discount too, if you really look at it, man. That's a huge
at this moment in time, significant discount.
That is a huge discount, man. Like
give me all the Justin Fields shares right now. Give me them all.
Man.
Justin Fields is one of those classic guys that like gets into a position where he looks to thrive and you get him at a very cheap cost. And then look, like for best ball purposes, it's like, look, I want all the Justin Fields right now. Like, give me all that I can.
Best ball redraft. Like if
it's
it's,
just
I mean,
it's just
I think we both know it's not going to stay like this for redraft. I think we both know
no.
that.
No.
But like,
Darnold,
and
both
if
of
it
these
does,
guys probably
man.
get pushed up like the board. Both of these guys, you're still probably getting at the end of your draft.
Yeah, but also too, like you mentioned,
Still.
it's FFPC, man. Like these guys are dogs, man. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
quarterbacks,
In
like I
reality,
played in a
Justin Fields
couple of
probably
it.
go
Yeah,
11th round.
I've played in a couple of them, man. And quarterbacks do like people. When you say wait on quarterback, these guys they wait big time, and I think this is evidence right here that like they wait till typically this is this is you getting into kickers and defensive spots right here, man. You know what I mean? And so this is just pretty pretty tells you the story, tells you everything you need to know almost in the 15th round if we're still picking quarterbacks, man. So
yeah, it's definitely rough. But yeah, the FFPC guys definitely wait on QB all the time. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, a couple of those guys went off the board. Yeah, they were supposed to. I'm waiting for my guy.
Yep.
But Justin Fields, obviously, because look, like the Konami code, Justin Fields, running with his legs, chance to score rushing touchdowns.
Running with his hands.
You know what I'm saying? Like running with his hands, right? That would be crazy, right? Oh my gosh. How would you hold the football, right?
Yeah.
Put it in your stomach and go.
Oh man. The old annexation of Puerto Rico play, man.
Oh God, yo. Jesus, yo. I can't with him. But I mean, in terms of just like how, like I said, Justin Fields got an opportunity to rehab, what he'd been doing before. Justin Fields, like your Steelers to what, like a 5-2 record? 4-2 record, something like that.
4-2.
Before Russell, 4-2 before Russell came in. So from a real life perspective, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, and again, like using his running legs, the Jets offensive line hopefully gets built up a little bit better. But even if it so-called doesn't, we still have that scrambling ability for Justin Fields. I think Sam Darnold's getting out of the Minnesota offense. We may see some of his numbers drop a bit, but not as much. I still think he's a solid quarterback. That's a nice bounce back spot for him in Seattle. Becoming the man for sure again. So it remains to be seen. But I do think when it comes to fantasy side of things, Justin Fields is going to automatically get a few notches up just because of how he can run with his legs. So
yeah, I think everything you said. I think we talked about a little bit last week. Just the offense for the Seahawks, right? Like we know what they want to do. And I think one of the other things too is like Seattle. There's a couple teams out west, man. One of the teams we didn't talk about, not to get off subject. I was talking to Swanson that was on here the other night, man, or last week, and 49ers have lost a ton. Like they've been stripped down. So I think that division, the Rams are obviously there. That's probably the cream of the crop when it comes to that division, and they're really young on defense. So and Arizona is kind of leaky. So when you have a couple, when you have games like that on your schedule guaranteed, there's obviously an opportunity for some points. And I think it might not be pretty for Sam Darnold. I know you guys were talking about the Vikings offensive line towards the end of the show last week, man. But like, towards the end of the year, that offensive line was not as advertised. And I think, that's one of the things. And Darnold, he was still able to put up some decent numbers, man. So to your point, I think like, I think you'll still get decent production out of him for sure. It's not anything that like I'm, standing on a soapbox or planting my flag on. But like, if it ends up being that, man, and that's who you end up having is Sam Darnold, you could do a lot worse for sure. But in this scenario, man, man, damn, it just hurts me to even see this, man. It's sad. Give me Justin Fields of the New York Jets, on the spot, man. Damn. I was hoping I was like gonna be getting my Cordell Stewart vibes back with him, man. You know what I mean? But Slash.
Oh, he'll get his Cordell Stewart vibes.
Oh, I know
back.
he will. Just be in a green uniform. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, that ought to do it, people. We are gonna leave you guys with, you guessed it, our final thoughts. John. Any last words?
Yeah, my last words. One of the things actually we didn't hit on, and I want to make sure that I do, because we were talking about it and we never really got to like an actual landing spot, like with Dobbins and Nick Chubb, but like just a couple places, like I thought I won't long winded, man. But I think the Giants is a really intriguing place, just because I know they have Tyrone Tracy there, but to have somebody to go in between the tackles, really intriguing place. Now, although I don't know how they're going to do it after they just paid Jamar Chase and T Higgins, but the Cincinnati Bengals, I think that could be a very interesting situation. For sure. So just I want to make sure I throw that out. But other than that, man, no, like don't have a whole lot. Free agency has continued to be a little dry and a little boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little dry and a little boring. Word to Michael Scott. Yeah, like this was the best we could give you guys tonight. Was a little ADP, either or. So I hope you guys enjoyed it for sure. And we'll continue to try to get creative and give you guys some fire content as we move
ADP is
forward here over
fine.
the next.
ADP was great. ADP was great.
No, I said it was
You're gonna
fine.
adjust as they go, but it's always nice to make noteworthy of like,
Yeah.
all right, like cool, we're making this note on this person, and then we
Yeah.
come back to like, oh, was this still where we want to be? I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no, my opinion changed on this.
Yeah. So no, man, like that right there. Hope everybody has a happy St. Patrick's Day. If you out there drink and drive responsibly. And make sure you're wearing green. Like me.
This is like a darker green, but
I know you. Not in the spirit. Damn shame.
I like a darker green.
Damn shame. Hey, that's brown. You ain't fooling nobody.
It's not brown. You know
It
what?
looks brown over here.
It's not. But anyhow, yeah, final thoughts over here. Really, I coached my last 4th and 5th grade basketball team this past weekend.
Okay.
We finished out 500. So I mean, look, like wasn't too bad for coaching. Just sometimes you got knuckleheads. You know what I'm saying? But you got some kids that actually want to play. So there's a happy balance.
All them damn kids knuckleheads.
Kind of are. Kind of are. Yeah, sorry. Kind of are. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. What is this dog going crazy out here for, yo? People came and tamed their dogs, let alone their children. Anyway, I'm just saying. But yeah, look, just everyone stay posted on what we're up to. We're gonna have our shows. We're gonna try to be here, but just keep us posted because look, it's off season, so things are gonna come up all the time. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next show. Peace out.
Yeah, dog.